My parents sold me to a superstar for $100,000. At least, that was how my mother explained it. Ethan, please don't make that face. I stared across the kitchen table at her. What face? The one that makes me feel like I committed a crime. You took $100,000 from a stranger and signed my name on a contract. Mom looked down at her coffee. My father suddenly became fascinated by the newspaper in front of him. I pointed at both of them. I think the face is appropriate. Dad cleared his throat. Technically, she isn't a stranger. I turned toward him. Oh, good. That makes everything better. Who did you sell me to? A family friend. Neither of them answered. That was when I noticed the black folder sitting between us. It looked expensive. Embossed lettering covered the front. Along with the logo of a management company I recognized immediately. My irritation disappeared. I picked it up. No way. Mom gave me an awkward smile. I opened the folder. The first page contained a name that practically everyone in America knew. Serena Vale. Singer. Actress. Global superstar. 26 years old. 3 #1 albums. 2 sold-out world tours. A shelf full of awards. More magazine covers than I could count. And, according to practically every entertainment site on the planet, one of the coldest celebrities in Hollywood. Serena Vale rarely smiled in interviews. She never talked about her personal life. She had publicly rejected actors, musicians, athletes, and at least one billionaire heir. The internet called her the Ice Queen. And apparently my parents had just accepted $100,000 from her. I slowly looked up. Why does Serena Vale want me? Mom and Dad exchanged a glance. That glance made me nervous. We don't exactly know. Mom admitted. You took the money without knowing. We needed it. That shut me up. I knew things had been bad. Dad's business had collapsed the previous year. Bills had piled up. They had tried their best to hide how serious the situation was. But I wasn't stupid. Still, this was insane. I flipped through the contract. It described a 1-year private employment arrangement. I would live on Serena's property, assist with personal scheduling, accompany her when requested, and keep everything involving her private life confidential. The salary was ridiculous. Housing included, transportation included, food included, and the $100,000 my parents had received, an advance. I dropped the contract onto the table. No, Ethan, no. I stood. I'm going to her house. Mom blinked. Right now? Right now? What are you going to do? Give her the money back and ask why one of the most famous women alive apparently bought me off my parents. Dad lowered his newspaper. You might want to phrase that differently. I absolutely will not. 2 hours later, I stood outside Serena Vale's Los Angeles estate wondering how my life had become this stupid. Calling it a house would have been ridiculous. The place sat behind tall gates and manicured trees, hidden from the road. Modern glass walls reflected the afternoon sunlight. There was a swimming pool large enough to qualify as a small lake. A security guard checked my identification. The moment he saw my name, his entire attitude changed. Mr. Carter. Unfortunately, he touched his earpiece. He's here. I frowned. The gates opened immediately. That was weird. Even weirder was the woman waiting near the entrance. She introduced herself as Serena's manager. Claire Morgan. Claire looked me up and down. So you're Ethan. There was something strange about the way she said it. You know who I am. Claire almost laughed. Oh, I know exactly who you are. Before I could ask what that meant, she turned. Come on. She's been waiting. For how long? Claire glanced over her shoulder. You have no idea. That answer bothered me all the way through the house. There were no crowds, no cameras, no assistants rushing everywhere. The estate was surprisingly quiet. Claire led me into a large living room overlooking the garden. Wait here. Where's Serena? Coming. Claire left. I stood alone. For the first time since discovering the contract, nervousness replaced my anger. What was I supposed to say? Hi, international superstar. Thanks for financially rescuing my parents. Could you please explain why you purchased the deluxe Ethan Carter package? I rubbed my forehead. Then I heard footsteps behind me. Soft. Slow. I turned and stopped. Serena Vale stood 10 feet away. I'd seen her countless times on screens, but photographs didn't quite capture her presence. Long dark hair fell over her shoulders. She wore a simple cream sweater and dark pants instead of some red carpet outfit. There was no dramatic makeup, no jewelry beyond a thin bracelet. She looked almost ordinary. Almost. Her expression was exactly what I expected. Calm, cool, unreadable. Her eyes stayed on mine. Neither of us spoke. Finally, I lifted the contract. Serena Vale. Yes, my parents accepted $100,000 from you. I know. They signed me into some kind of private assistant contract. I know. I came here to tell you there's been a mistake. For the first time, something changed in her eyes. A mistake? I don't know what my parents told you, but I'm giving the money back. I turned toward the table where I'd placed the bank documents. I'm sorry you wasted your time. I expected her to argue. Instead, I heard her walking closer. Then arms suddenly wrapped around me from behind. I froze. Completely. Serena rested her forehead lightly against my back. My brain stopped functioning. This woman barely shook hands with people in public. And she was hugging me. Her arms tightened slightly. Then I heard her voice. It was softer than anything I'd ever heard in her interviews. Long time no see, she paused. My true love. My heart seemed to miss a beat. I turned around so quickly that she had to release me. What? For the first time, the famous Ice Queen looked almost amused. I stared at her. Have we met? The tiny warmth in her expression disappeared. Serena blinked. Once. Twice. You don't remember me. I'm pretty sure I'd remember meeting Serena Vale. That isn't what I asked. I searched her face. Nothing. Beautiful. Obviously. Familiar. Maybe. But that could have been because her face was on billboards everywhere. I'm sorry. She stared at me for several seconds. Then she walked past me. Fine. Fine. Sit down. Her voice had returned to its usual cold tone. I almost laughed. There she was. The Ice Queen. I sat opposite her. Serena folded her hands. I'll make you a deal. I'm not interested in another deal. 1 month. I frowned. Stay here for 1 month. Follow the contract. After 30 days. If you still want to leave, I'll terminate it personally. Your parents keep the money. And if I leave today, they return the advance. That complicated things. Serena knew it. I narrowed my eyes. You planned this. No. You're a terrible liar. A tiny curve appeared at the corner of her mouth. That surprised me more than the hug. 1 month. She repeated. I leaned back. And during that month, you're going to explain why you called me your true love. No. I stared. No. You'll remember. You seem extremely confident. I am. There was something almost challenging in her eyes. I sighed. 30 days. My parents could keep the money. After that, I could walk away. Fine. Serena's fingers tightened together. It was such a small movement that I nearly missed it. You'll stay? For 1 month. Good. She stood immediately. Claire will show you your room. That's it. For today. I watched her walk toward the hallway. Then something occurred to me. Serena. She stopped. If we've really met before, she looked back. How long ago was it? For several seconds. She said nothing. Then she answered quietly. 10 years. And walked away. My room was bigger than my parents' entire apartment. That alone made me uncomfortable. The next morning made things stranger. I entered the kitchen at 7:30. Breakfast was already waiting. Eggs, toast, fruit, and coffee. I took 1 sip, then stopped. 2 sugars, a little milk. Exactly how I drank it. Serena sat across the kitchen island reading something on her tablet. I looked at the cup, then at her. How did you know? Know what? My coffee. She didn't look up. Lucky guess. I stared at her. You guessed 2 sugars and just enough milk to make it barely drinkable. Yes. You're lying again. I don't lie. You lied yesterday. She finally looked at me. You simply misunderstand me frequently. I almost smiled. Almost. Then I noticed something beside her tablet. A small jar of strawberry jam. An old memory flickered. A school cafeteria. Cheap toast. Someone sitting across from me. Dark hair. Black framed glasses. I reached for the memory. Gone. Serena was watching me carefully. What? Nothing. She looked back at her tablet. But I saw her fingers tighten around it. Over the next week, I learned something important. The public had Serena Vale completely wrong. Well, mostly wrong. She really was cold. Just not with me. At a recording studio, an executive spent 10 minutes praising her new single. Serena answered with 3 words. I'll consider it. A famous actor stopped by and invited her to dinner. No. He tried again. No. He laughed awkwardly. You didn't even check your schedule. I don't need to. Then she walked directly past him, stopped beside me, and held out a bottle. Open this. I stared at the water bottle. You rejected a movie star because you needed me to open water. I didn't reject him because of the water. You could open this yourself? Yes. Then why, Ethan? What? Open it. I opened it. She took the bottle. Thank you. Claire stood nearby, trying desperately not to laugh. That evening, I confronted her. Why is she like this with me? Claire looked innocent. Like what? Normal. Claire laughed. You think this is Serena being normal? What would you call it? Hopeless. I frowned. Claire immediately walked away. Claire. Good night. Ethan. Claire. She disappeared around the corner. Something was going on. Everyone knew except me. On the 9th day, Serena came home after midnight. I had fallen asleep on the living room couch, while watching a movie. A sound woke me. Serena stood near the doorway, still wearing the black dress from an awards event. She looked exhausted. "You're awake," she said. "Apparently. You should sleep upstairs." "So should you." She didn't answer. I noticed she was holding her heels in one hand. For some reason, the sight made me laugh. Her eyes narrowed. "What?" "Nothing. You're laughing." I've just never seen the terrifying Serena Vale walking around barefoot carrying her shoes. "Don't tell anyone. My silence will cost you." "How much?" I thought about it. $100,000. She stared at me. Then she laughed. Actually laughed. It wasn't the controlled smile she used in interviews. It was warm and completely unguarded. And suddenly, I remembered. Not everything. Just a flash. A 16-year-old girl laughing exactly like that. Dark hair tied back. Oversized glasses. A school courtyard. Me handing her half of my sandwich. Her looking at me like I'd done something extraordinary. The memory vanished almost immediately. But this time I knew. I knew that laugh. Serena, her expression changed. "What?" I stood slowly. "Did we go to Westbridge High?" She went completely still. That was my answer. I stared at her. A name surfaced from somewhere deep in my memory. Not Serena Vale. Another name. A girl almost nobody noticed. A girl who sat alone. A girl I hadn't thought about in years. Rena. Her eyes widened. And suddenly the Ice Queen was gone. She looked almost 17 again. "You remember?" I could barely believe it. "Rena Hayes." Serena nodded. The memories returned piece by piece. She had transferred halfway through sophomore year. Quiet. Awkward. Always hiding behind enormous glasses. She ate lunch alone until one day I'd sat across from her because every other table was full. Then I kept sitting there. We studied together. I helped her prepare for a school talent show. She once told me she wanted to sing professionally. I told her she should. Then my family moved away. We lost contact. I had no idea Serena Vale and Rena Hayes were the same person. "You changed your name." "My mother's maiden name." "And you?" I gestured helplessly at the enormous house around us. "Became this." She looked at me. "You told me I could." I laughed softly. "I was 16. I believed you." Something about the way she said it made my chest tighten. Then I remembered her words from the first day. "My true love." I looked at her. "Serena." She knew what I was going to ask. Her gaze dropped for the first time. "You really never knew." "Knew what?" She was silent. Then she stepped closer. "When everyone at school treated me like I was invisible. You sat beside me. That doesn't mean." "You remembered what food I hated." I stopped. "You walked me home when it rained." "That was because you came to every rehearsal even though I was terrible." "You weren't terrible. I was awful." I smiled. "Okay, you were pretty bad." She glared at me. Then we both laughed. When the laughter faded, she looked directly into my eyes. "I fell in love with you back then, Ethan." There it was. Simple. Direct. 10 years hidden inside one sentence. I didn't know what to say. Serena continued before I could. "You moved away before I could tell you. So you waited 10 years. I didn't exactly sit around waiting. I looked around at the mansion. Clearly, that earned another small smile. But I never forgot you." My chest felt strangely warm. "So when my parents contacted your people, I already knew where you were." I blinked. "What?" She looked away. "You were looking for me. For years." That hit harder than I expected. "And when they offered this ridiculous contract?" I said yes. Immediately. 11 seconds. I stared at her. She looked completely serious. I burst out laughing. Serena crossed her arms. "What?" "Nothing. I'm just realizing my parents thought they were negotiating with a superstar." "They were." "No. They were negotiating with a girl who'd had a crush on me since high school." Her cheeks turned faintly pink. I had never seen Serena Vale blush before. It was adorable. And judging by the look she gave me, she knew exactly what I was thinking. "Don't." I didn't say anything. "You were about to." I smiled. For the first time since arriving, I wasn't thinking about the contract, or the $100,000, or leaving. I was thinking about a quiet girl from high school who had somehow become one of the most famous women in the world. And somehow, through all of it, she had remembered me. Maybe 30 days wasn't going to feel very long after all. After Serena told me she'd been in love with me since high school, sleeping became impossible. I lay in a bed that probably cost more than my first car and stared at the ceiling until 2 in the morning. Then 3, then 4. Every time I closed my eyes, another piece of the past came back. Rena Hayes sitting alone in the cafeteria. Rena nervously twisting the straw in her juice box whenever someone spoke to her. Rena standing backstage before the school talent show, convinced she was going to embarrass herself. And me telling her, with all the confidence of a 16-year-old who had absolutely no idea what he was talking about, "You'll be famous someday." Apparently, She'd taken that seriously. Very seriously. The strangest part wasn't that Serena Vale used to be Rena Hayes. It wasn't even that she'd remembered me for 10 years. It was that I had never noticed how she felt. Looking back, the signs seemed embarrassingly obvious. She always saved the seat beside her. She remembered my birthday when half my friends forgot. She once spent an entire weekend making me a terrible chocolate cake after I mentioned I'd never had anyone bake one for me. At the time, I thought she was just grateful to have a friend. Now, I wanted to travel back in time and shake 16-year-old me. At 7 in the morning, I finally gave up on sleep. I went downstairs. Serena was already in the kitchen. She wore an oversized gray sweatshirt, loose black pants, and no makeup. Her hair was tied carelessly behind her head. It was probably the least glamorous version of Serena Vale anyone outside this house would ever see. She looked up from her coffee. "You look terrible." "Good morning to you too. You didn't sleep. Whose fault is that?" Her hand paused around the mug. For half a second, she looked guilty. Then the Ice Queen returned. "I don't know what you're talking about. You confessed that you've loved me for 10 years, and then went upstairs like you just told me the weather forecast." I was tired. I pulled out the chair across from her. "Serena." "Yes. You can't casually drop something like that on a person." "I didn't do it casually." "You absolutely did. I prepared for that conversation for years." I stared at her. "That somehow makes it worse." She took another sip of coffee. I watched her for a moment. Then I asked the question that had bothered me all night. "Why didn't you contact me?" Her expression changed. Not dramatically. Serena rarely showed anything dramatically, but I'd started learning her smaller reactions. The slight lowering of her eyes. The way her thumb traced the edge of her coffee cup. I tried. "When?" "College." I frowned. "I never heard from you." "I know." She looked toward the windows. "I found your old social media account. You hadn't used it in months. I sent you a message anyway." "I never saw it." I figured. "What did it say?" Serena didn't answer. I leaned forward. "What did it say?" "No. Come on. No. You just admitted you've loved me for 10 years. That doesn't mean you get access to everything. It absolutely means I deserve to hear the embarrassing message." She gave me a flat look. I grinned. Her cheeks turned slightly pink. Interesting. The woman who could perform in front of 70,000 people without showing a trace of nerves was embarrassed by an old message she'd sent me. I wanted to hear it even more. Was it romantic? No. Long? No. Did it say you missed me? Silence. I smiled wider. "Oh, stop." It did. "Ethan, you told me you missed me." She stood. Conversation over. Or so she thought. I followed her. Was there a heart emoji? She walked faster. There was. Wasn't there? She turned around. "Don't you have work?" I stopped. "Technically, you're my work." Serena stared at me. Then she closed her eyes. "You're enjoying this." "A little." "This was a mistake." "What was?" "Telling you anything." She turned again. I laughed. And for the first time since I'd arrived, the enormous house didn't feel strange. It felt warm. That afternoon, I went with Serena to a rehearsal studio in downtown Los Angeles. Until then, most of my assistant duties had been laughably simple. Carry her schedule, make sure her phone was charged, bring water, occasionally remind her to eat. Claire handled everything important, which meant I was starting to suspect my position had been invented entirely to keep me near Serena. The thought should have bothered me. Instead, I found it increasingly funny. The studio was packed when we arrived. Musicians, dancers, producers, stylists, assistants, security. The second Serena walked in, the atmosphere changed. People straightened. Conversations became quieter. She nodded once. "Morning." At least 12 people replied immediately. I followed behind her carrying coffee. Claire appeared beside me. "You know, before you arrived, she usually came in alone. I'm her assistant." Claire looked at the coffee in my hand. "You're carrying one cup." "It's hers." "Exactly." I narrowed my eyes. "What are you implying?" "Nothing." Claire walked away. I was beginning to dislike how much that woman knew. Rehearsal started. For the next 2 hours, I saw the version of Serena the public knew. Focused, demanding, almost intimidating. If a note was wrong, she heard it. If choreography was half a beat late, she noticed. If the lighting didn't match what she'd requested, she stopped everything. She wasn't cruel. She simply expected perfection. And apparently, everyone around her respected that. Then rehearsal ended. Serena stepped off the stage. I handed her the coffee. She took one sip. Her eyebrows pulled together. "Cold." I stared at her. "You left it sitting there for 2 hours." "I know. So, I don't want it anymore." "Okay." She handed it back, then looked at the bottle of water in my other hand. "Is that cold?" "Yes. Too cold." I checked it. How exactly am I supposed to measure that? Touch it. I am touching it. With your hand. I raised the bottle. Serena, what do you think I'm touching it with? Someone nearby made a choking sound. I looked over. 3 dancers were pretending very badly not to listen. Serena ignored them. Give it to me. I handed her the water. She took a sip. Fine. Your Majesty approves. Her eyes narrowed. I smiled. Behind us, one of the dancers whispered. Did he just say that to Serena Vale? Another whispered back. And survive. I heard them. So did Serena. She walked away without reacting. But I saw the corner of her mouth lift. During the break, a man named Adrian Cole arrived. Even I knew him. Movie star. Perfect hair. Perfect smile. The kind of face designed specifically for billboards. He greeted Serena like they were old friends. Dinner tonight. No. That was immediate. Adrian laughed. You didn't even think about it. I've thought about it before. And, no. He placed a hand dramatically over his heart. Cruel. Serena didn't react. Then Adrian noticed me. And who's this? Before I could answer, Serena did. Ethan. Nothing else. Adrian waited. I waited. Apparently, that was the entire introduction. He looked at me. Ethan. Carter. He offered his hand. Adrian. I know. He smiled. Then looked between Serena and me. There was curiosity in his expression. So you're the mysterious new assistant. Apparently. I heard Serena suddenly hired someone personally. I looked at her. Personally. Serena picked up her phone. Adrian continued. That never happens. Really? Never. Interesting. Serena started walking away. Ethan. I looked at her. We're leaving. Adrian laughed. Looks like you're being summoned. I followed her toward the hallway. When we were out of earshot, I asked, were you jealous? Serena stopped. No. That was fast. Because the answer is obvious. Is it? Yes. I stepped in front of her. You barely introduced me. I told him your name. You looked like you wanted to freeze him solid. That is simply my face. I laughed. Sure. She walked past me. Then, very quietly, he was looking at you too much. I stopped. What? Nothing. Serena. She kept walking. I caught up. Did you just say he was looking at me too much? No. You did. You misheard. Are you jealous of Adrian because he looked at me? She pressed the elevator button. Why would I be jealous? The doors opened. She stepped inside. I followed. Because you're secretly obsessed with me. Her head snapped toward me. I grinned. The elevator doors closed. For 3 seconds. She said nothing. Then, not secretly anymore. My grin disappeared. Serena looked straight ahead. I stared at her profile. That had been unfair. You can't just say things like that. You started it. You're getting better at this. At what? Making me speechless. The elevator reached the ground floor. She stepped out. As she passed me, she said, good. Things became more complicated 3 days later. A photograph appeared online. Serena and me leaving the studio. Nothing dramatic. She was walking ahead. I was behind her holding her jacket. But the headline was dramatic enough for both of us. Serena Vale's mystery man, secret boyfriend. By lunchtime, the picture was everywhere. People analyzed my shoes, my watch, my height. Someone found my old college baseball statistics. Another person somehow discovered a photo of me dressed as a pirate at a Halloween party when I was 19. The internet was terrifying. Claire called an emergency meeting. We can deny it. Serena sat on the couch beside me. No. Claire paused. No. No denial. I looked at her. Why? Serena didn't look at me. Because it would be dishonest. I nearly dropped my phone. Claire's eyes flicked toward me. I knew exactly what she was thinking. Hopeless. Serena. I said carefully. We're not dating. I know. So denying that I'm your boyfriend wouldn't be dishonest. She finally looked at me. It would imply I don't want you to be. Silence. Claire suddenly stood. I think I'll give you 2 privacy. Coward. I muttered. She left anyway. I turned toward Serena. You realize normal people don't say things like that, right? I'm not normal. Fair. She looked down at her hands. Then her voice softened. I don't want to pressure you. That surprised me. You don't. No. The contract says otherwise. Her expression immediately became serious. If you truly want to leave, I'll terminate it today. I blinked. But you said 30 days. I changed my mind. Why? Because now you know the truth. She met my eyes. I don't want you staying because of money. There was no ice queen in her voice now. Just Rena. The quiet girl I'd once known. I wanted a chance. Ethan. That's all. A chance at what? She looked at me like the answer should have been obvious. Making you fall for me this time. My heart did something inconvenient. I leaned back. You've become surprisingly confident. I've had 10 years to practice. That isn't how confidence works. It worked for me. I laughed. Then I noticed she was nervous. Her fingers were clasped tightly together. She was waiting for my answer. I thought about leaving. Strangely, the idea didn't bring relief anymore. Instead, I imagined going back to my apartment. No Serena at breakfast. No ridiculous arguments over coffee. No watching her turn from untouchable superstar to annoyed girl whenever I teased her. No hearing her laugh. I realized something. I didn't want to leave. Not yet. So I picked up the contract from the table. Serena watched me. I tore it in half. Her eyes widened. Then I tore it again. What are you doing? I dropped the pieces onto the table. You said you didn't want me staying because of the contract. She stared at the pieces, then at me. So I'm staying because I want to. For once, Serena Vale had absolutely nothing to say. I stood. Enjoy the feeling. It doesn't happen often. I started toward the kitchen. Behind me, Ethan. I turned. She was still sitting there, but she was smiling. Not the Serena Vale smile. Rena's smile. What? Thank you. Something about those two words hit harder than any confession. I smiled back. Don't get emotional. You're still paying me. Her expression immediately flattened. Of course. And I want a raise. Leave. I laughed. The following week felt different. There was no contract between us anymore, which meant every time Serena asked me to accompany her somewhere, I knew I could say no. I almost always said yes. One evening, she had a charity gala. Claire expected me to stay backstage. Serena had other ideas. You're coming inside. I looked down at my plain black suit. To a red carpet event. Yes. Why? Because I want you there. Simple. Direct. Very Serena. The ballroom was filled with actors, executives, musicians, and people wealthy enough to have buildings named after them. I felt spectacularly out of place. Serena noticed. You're uncomfortable. I'm surrounded by people whose watches cost more than my education. Don't look at their watches. Excellent advice. She stopped, then adjusted my tie. I froze. Her face was close. Very close. You don't belong here any less than they do. She said, you're only saying that because you're biased. Yes. I laughed. You admit it. I've been biased since I was 16. There it was again. That strange warmth. Before I could answer, cameras flashed nearby. Serena stepped away. The Ice Queen returned instantly. But now I knew what was underneath. And somehow, that made watching her even more fascinating. Later that night, I found her alone on a balcony. The party continued behind us. Music, laughter, glasses clinking. Serena leaned against the railing. Tired. A little. I stood beside her. For a while, neither of us spoke. Then she said, you gave me strawberry milk once. I laughed. What? High school. I don't remember that. I do. Of course you do. You bought the last one from the cafeteria vending machine. And I wanted it. So, you gave it to me. I looked at her. That's the great romantic memory you've carried for 10 years. It mattered to me. Her tone made me stop joking. She looked out over the city. You never understood how lonely I was back then. I didn't answer. You were kind to me before there was any reason to be. People don't need a reason. I know. She looked at me. You taught me that. For the first time, I understood something important. Serena hadn't fallen for some heroic version of me. I hadn't saved her life. I hadn't made some grand sacrifice. I'd simply sat beside a lonely girl. And she'd remembered. For 10 years. I swallowed. Rena. Her eyes softened at the old name. Yeah. I hesitated. Then held out my hand. She looked down at it. What? Nothing dramatic. She looked suspicious. Just take it. Slowly. Serena placed her hand in mine. Her fingers were cool. I closed mine around them. For someone who had hugged me from behind on our first meeting, she suddenly looked remarkably nervous. I smiled. You've been waiting 10 years for this. Her cheeks warmed. Maybe. That's kind of cute. Don't ruin it. I laughed. But I didn't let go. Neither did she. And standing there above the city, holding hands with the girl I'd forgotten and the woman the entire world knew, I finally admitted something to myself. 30 days ago, Serena Vale had been a stranger. Now the thought of leaving her behind felt wrong. Maybe she had spent 10 years waiting for me. But somewhere along the way, without realizing it, I had started walking toward her too. Holding Serena's hand on that balcony changed something between us. Neither of us said it out loud. We didn't need to. Before that night, there had always been an invisible line between us. She was Serena Vale, the superstar who had somehow carried feelings for me across 10 years. I was Ethan Carter, the idiot who hadn't even realized Serena Vale and Rena Hayes were the same person until she'd practically handed me the answer. The contract had given us an excuse to be around each other. The past had given Serena a reason to love me. But neither of those things answered the question that mattered now. What were we going to become? Apparently, Serena's solution was to behave exactly like my girlfriend while refusing to officially call herself my girlfriend. I discovered this the following morning. I walked into the kitchen and found a paper bag beside my coffee. I opened it. Inside was a blueberry muffin from a bakery I'd mentioned once, 2 weeks earlier. Serena sat across from me, pretending to read emails. I lifted the muffin. Did you buy this? No. Claire. No. Then did it materialize here? She continued scrolling. I asked someone to pick it up. For me? No. I looked around the empty kitchen. Are we expecting another Ethan? She finally looked up. You talk too much in the morning. I smiled. You remembered my favorite muffin. I remember many things. That's adorable. Her eyes narrowed. Eat. Yes, ma'am. I took a bite. She went back to her tablet. 10 seconds later, without looking at me, she asked, is it good? I almost laughed. Very. She nodded once. Satisfied. That was Serena. She could stand in front of 50,000 screaming fans without blinking. But apparently my opinion of a blueberry muffin mattered enough to make her nervous. I was beginning to understand why I liked teasing her so much. Every tiny crack in the Ice Queen's armor belonged only to me, and I liked that more than I should have. Later that morning, Claire walked into the kitchen carrying 2 phones and a look of exhaustion. We have a problem. Serena didn't look up. What? Claire placed one phone on the counter. Your mystery man problem. I nearly choked on my coffee. My what? Claire looked at me. You. Oh. The photograph of Serena and me from the recording studio had not disappeared. It had multiplied. There were now pictures of us leaving restaurants, getting into cars, entering her estate, and walking through the backstage area of her concert venue. Someone had even photographed us at the charity gala. More specifically, they'd photographed Serena holding my hand on the balcony. That picture had gone viral. I stared at the screen. Well, Claire crossed her arms. Exactly. The headline read, Serena Vale's Secret Romance. Ice Queen spotted holding hands with Mystery Monty looked at Serena. She was unusually calm. Do you want to explain this? No. Claire sighed. Serena. No. You have an interview tomorrow. I know. They're going to ask. I know. What do you want me to tell them? Serena finally put down her tablet. The truth. Claire blinked. I blinked. The truth. I repeated. Serena looked at me. Yes. What truth exactly? That you're important to me. My heart betrayed me again. Claire rubbed her temples. You understand that the second you say anything remotely romantic, the internet is going to explode. Serena shrugged. It explodes every week. This will be different. Why? Because you've spent 6 years rejecting every dating rumor that has ever involved you. They were false. And this one. Serena looked at me. She didn't answer. She didn't have to. Claire noticed. So did I? The kitchen suddenly felt smaller. I cleared my throat. Maybe we should talk about this. Serena nodded. Fine. Claire immediately grabbed her phones. I am leaving. You do that a lot. I said. It's called survival. She disappeared. I turned toward Serena. You know we still haven't actually defined whatever this is. She folded her arms. Do we need to? Yes. Why? Because apparently tomorrow you might tell the entire country that I'm important to you. You are. You say things like that way too easily. Should I lie? No. Then what's the problem? I stared at her. She stared back. Arguing with Serena was exhausting because she had an irritating habit of reducing complicated emotional situations to simple facts. Do I like you? Yes. Do I want you here? Yes. Are you important to me? Yes. Problem solved. Except my brain didn't work that way. Serena. Yes. Are you asking me to be your boyfriend? For the first time. She hesitated. There it was. The Ice Queen suddenly looked almost shy. I was planning to. When? She looked away. Soon. How soon? Ethan. I smiled. You've had 10 years. That doesn't make this easier. That stopped me. Serena Vale was nervous. Not Rena Hayes. Serena Vale. A woman who could negotiate multi-million-dollar contracts. A woman who could walk onto a stage in front of an arena without trembling. A woman who had spent years being pursued by some of the most famous men in the world. And asking me to be her boyfriend scared her. That realization erased every joke I had been about to make. I walked around the counter. She watched me approach. I stopped in front of her. You know you don't have to be nervous with me, right? Her expression softened. I know. Then ask. She looked up at me. For several seconds. Neither of us moved. Then she said, Ethan Carter. That sounds serious. Stop. Sorry. She took a breath. Will you date me? I pretended to think. Her eyes narrowed immediately. Don't. I laughed. Okay. She blinked. Okay. I'll date you. For perhaps the second time since I'd known her. Serena Vale looked genuinely stunned. You will. You're the one who asked. I know. Then why do you look surprised? Because she stopped. Because what? Her voice became quieter. I've imagined you saying yes too many times. That hit me straight in the chest. I smiled. Well, now you don't have to imagine it. Something changed in her expression. Relief, happiness, disbelief, all at once. Then she stepped forward and hugged me. No warning. Again, I laughed into her hair. You really like doing this. Yes. At least this time you didn't attack me from behind. She tightened her arms. Don't complain. I'm not. And I wasn't. Dating Serena Vale was weird. Not bad. Just weird. Our first official date happened at home because leaving the estate without being photographed had become nearly impossible. I expected dinner. Maybe a movie. Serena apparently had other plans. When I walked into the backyard, I found blankets spread across the lawn beneath strings of small lights. There were takeout boxes, soda, popcorn, and a projector. I stopped. Serena stood beside the setup wearing jeans and a white sweater. What is this? A date? I can see that. Then why did you ask? Because I expected something more. I looked around. Superstar. Her expression flattened. What does that mean? I don't know. Private chef. Helicopter. Orchestra. Do you want a helicopter? No. Good. I smiled. This is perfect. She looked away quickly, but not quickly enough. I saw the smile. We sat together on the blanket. The movie started. 20 minutes later, I realized Serena wasn't watching it. She was watching me. I turned. What? Her eyes immediately moved to the screen. Nothing. You were staring. No. Serena. I was looking in your direction. At my face. Your face happens to be in that direction. I laughed. You're terrible at this. At what? Dating. Her head snapped toward me. I've never done it before. That surprised me. Seriously. Yes. Never. No. But you've been famous for years. What does that have to do with anything? I don't know. I assumed. She looked at me. I told you. Told me what? I was waiting for you. My smile faded. She said it so simply. Not dramatically. Not as a confession. Just a fact. I reached over and took her hand. She looked down. You don't have to keep saying things like that. Why? Because eventually I'm going to start feeling guilty. For what? For making you wait. Serena shook her head. You didn't make me do anything. But I chose to remember you. Her fingers tightened around mine. I chose to look for you. She leaned her head lightly against my shoulder. And now I choose to be happy that you're here. I looked down at her. That was the moment I realized something important. Serena didn't want repayment for the years she'd loved me. She wasn't keeping score. She didn't expect me to somehow match 10 years of feelings overnight. She simply wanted the chance to love me now. And maybe that was why being around her felt easier every day. The interview happened the next afternoon. Claire had warned Serena repeatedly, do not announce anything without thinking. I always think. Claire looked at me. Help me. I raised both hands. I'm staying out of this. Coward. Survival. Claire glared. Serena almost smiled. The interview took place in a television studio. I watched from backstage. Everything went smoothly at first. New album, upcoming tour, acting projects. Then the host leaned forward. There's one question everyone wants answered. Claire closed her eyes. I knew what was coming. The screen behind the host displayed the photograph from the balcony. Serena and me, holding hands. The audience reacted immediately. The host smiled. Serena. Who is he? Serena looked at the photograph, then toward the camera. His name is Ethan. The audience laughed. The host grinned. We know that now. But who is Ethan to you? Serena paused. Backstage. Claire whispered. Please behave. I nearly laughed. Then Serena answered. He's my first love. The studio exploded. Gasps. Applause. The host's eyes widened. Even I wasn't prepared for that. Your first love? Yes. How long have you known him? Since high school. And you've reconnected recently. Serena nodded. The host smiled. So are you two dating? There it was. The question. Serena looked toward backstage. Toward me. I don't know how she knew exactly where I was standing. But she did. Our eyes met. I smiled. Just a little. Serena turned back. Yes. Claire made a sound beside me that was somewhere between defeat and acceptance. The audience erupted again. The host laughed. You just broke millions of hearts. Serena's expression remained perfectly calm. I only needed one. I froze. Claire slowly turned toward me. Oh, that's going everywhere. She was right. Within 20 minutes. The clip was everywhere. I only needed one. Fans lost their minds. Some were shocked. Some were heartbroken. Most were obsessed. Someone created a compilation of every interview where Serena had rejected questions about romance, ending with today's confession. Another person dug up Serena's old high school yearbook. And that was when things got dangerous. Because buried inside an old school photo was 16-year-old Serena. And standing beside her me. That evening, I found Serena sitting cross-legged on the living room floor, scrolling through comments. I stopped. Are you reading social media? No. I looked at her phone. You're literally reading social media. She locked the screen. Not anymore. I sat beside her. How bad? She hesitated. Not bad. Meaning, she unlocked the phone. A fan post had more than 1 million likes. It showed our old school photograph beside the balcony picture. The caption said, "She liked him before she was famous." I'm done. I laughed. Serena looked embarrassed. Another post read, "Imagine being Serena Vale's high school crush and having no idea for 10 years. I stopped laughing. That one feels personal. It is accurate. Whose side are you on? Hers. You're impossible. She leaned against me. I looked at the old photograph again. There we were, two teenagers. I was grinning at the camera. Serena wasn't looking at the camera at all. She was looking at me. I hadn't noticed then. Now it was impossible not to see. You really did like me. She pinched my arm. Ow. What? You sound surprised. I knew. It's just I zoomed in. You weren't subtle. I thought I was. You were staring at me. I was 16. You looked like you wanted to marry me. Silence. I slowly turned. Serena looked away. No way. Stop. Serena. Ethan. Did 16-year-old you want to marry me? She stood. Conversation over. I grabbed her wrist gently. She looked down at me. I was laughing. You did. Her face was red now. Actually red. The Ice Queen had completely collapsed. I hate you. No. You don't. She glared. I pulled her gently back down beside me. No. She admitted quietly. I really don't. For a moment, we just looked at each other. Then I said, I wish I'd known. Her expression softened. Would it have changed anything? I thought about it. I don't know. That was the truthful answer. At 16, I had liked her. But had I loved her? Probably not. I hadn't understood her feelings. I hadn't understood my own. Serena nodded. Then don't regret it. But you waited. And now you're here. She smiled. That's enough. I stared at her. Maybe she was right. We couldn't rewrite high school. But we had now. I leaned closer. Her eyes widened slightly. For someone who had spent 10 years imagining us together. She looked suddenly terrified. I stopped. Can I? Serena blinked. Then nodded. I kissed her forehead. Nothing more. Just gentle. Simple. When I pulled away, she was completely frozen. I smiled. Serena? No answer. Rena? Her hands suddenly covered her face. I burst out laughing. Are you blushing? Go away. This is incredible. Ethan, you confessed your love on national television, but a forehead kiss breaks you. She stood. I followed. She walked faster. I followed faster. Where are you going? Somewhere without you. Your house isn't that big. She turned. It is enormous. Fair point. I laughed as she disappeared upstairs. But before she reached the landing, she stopped. She looked back at me. The embarrassment was still there. So was the happiness. Good night, Ethan. Good night, Rena. She disappeared, and I stood there smiling like an idiot. 3 days later, Serena had her biggest concert of the year. 60,000 people filled the stadium. I watched from the side of the stage. Seeing Serena perform was always strange. The woman who stole my shirts because she said they were comfortable was suddenly standing beneath thousands of lights, commanding an entire stadium. The crowd knew every word, every movement, every song. And somehow, between songs, she still found me. Our eyes met, only for a second, but she smiled. The crowd screamed even louder. Claire stood beside me. You realize half the stadium thinks that smile was for them. It wasn't. Claire laughed. No. After the final song, Serena disappeared backstage. Staff rushed around us. Dancers celebrated. Managers shouted into headsets. I waited near her dressing room. 5 minutes later, the door opened. Serena stepped out. She looked exhausted, happy, still glowing with adrenaline. The second she saw me, she walked straight over. How was it? I pretended to think. Pretty good. Her eyes narrowed. Pretty good. 7 out of 10. Ethan, maybe 7.5. She hit my shoulder lightly. I laughed. You were amazing. Her expression softened instantly. Really, really. That one word seemed to matter more to her than 60,000 people cheering. I realized Claire was right. Hopeless. Completely hopeless. And increasingly, so was I. Serena reached for my hand. I took hers. Then I noticed something. You're shaking. Adrenaline. You should sit down. I'm fine. You've been performing for 2 hours. I said I'm fine. Rena. She sighed. That name always worked. I guided her toward the couch. Someone brought water. Another person brought a towel. People moved around us. Serena ignored all of them. She rested her head against my shoulder. Claire appeared in the doorway. She looked at us, then shook her head. What? I asked. Nothing. You keep saying that. Because I've spent 6 years watching men throw themselves at Serena and get nowhere. Serena closed her eyes. Claire. Claire ignored her. Then you show up. I smiled. And she turns into this. Serena lifted her head. Leave. Claire laughed. See. She walked away. Serena sighed. I should fire her. You won't. No. Because she's right. She looked at me, then rested her head against my shoulder again. Unfortunately, I smiled. Around us, the backstage area remained chaotic. People rushed past. Phones rang. Equipment rolled down hallways. But for a few minutes, Serena didn't move. Neither did I. Then she spoke quietly. Ethan. Yeah. Don't disappear again. The words were so soft, I almost missed them. I looked down. Her eyes were still closed. Suddenly I understood. Behind all the confidence, behind the fame, behind every teasing confession, part of her was still afraid. She had found me once, lost me, spent years looking, and now that I was here, some part of her still expected me to vanish. I squeezed her hand. I won't. Her eyes opened. You promise. I thought about the strange road that had brought me here. $100,000. An absurd contract. A hug from behind. A girl I'd forgotten. A superstar who hadn't forgotten me for a single day. Then I smiled. Yeah. I intertwined my fingers with hers. I promise. Serena looked at our hands, then at me, and that small, private smile appeared again. The one the cameras almost never caught. The one I was beginning to think belonged only to me. For the first time, I realized I didn't just enjoy being the exception to Serena Vale's coldness. I wanted to be the person she could always come home to. And that realization scared me. Because Serena had fallen first. But I was starting to think I might fall harder. The problem with realizing you might be falling in love with someone was that suddenly everything they did became dangerous. Serena drinking coffee. Dangerous. Serena falling asleep on the couch with a script on her chest. Dangerous. Serena walking through the kitchen in one of my hoodies because she'd apparently decided my clothes were community property. Extremely dangerous. I discovered the last one on a Sunday morning. I came downstairs expecting breakfast. Instead, I found Serena standing at the refrigerator wearing my dark blue college hoodie. I stopped halfway into the kitchen. She glanced over. What? That's mine. She looked down. No. I stared at her. It literally says Westbridge Athletics. I can read. And it's 3 sizes too big. Comfortable. You stole my hoodie. I borrowed it. Without asking. You were asleep. That doesn't make it better. She opened the refrigerator. It was cold. You own approximately 400 sweaters. I wanted this one. There it was. That simple Serena logic again. I crossed my arms. Why? She reached for orange juice. No reason. I walked closer. She immediately became suspicious. What? You wanted my hoodie specifically? No. You did. It was nearby. My room is upstairs. Silence. I smiled. You went into my room. To get the hoodie. Which was nearby? She closed the refrigerator. I don't like this conversation. I love this conversation. She tried to walk past me. I blocked her. She moved left. I moved left. She moved right. I moved right. Her eyes narrowed. Ethan. Yes. Move. Admit you wanted to wear my hoodie. I wanted to wear your hoodie. I blinked. That had been too easy. Then she added, because it smells like you. My brain stopped. Serena calmly walked around me. I remained where I was. Behind me. She said, you're getting easier. I turned. She was smiling. You did that on purpose. Yes. You're learning. I had a good teacher. I pointed at her. Give me my hoodie back. No. Serena. Mine now. And she walked away. I watched her go. This woman was becoming a serious problem. The strangest part of dating Serena wasn't the fame. It was the small things. I had expected private restaurants and expensive gifts. Those happened occasionally. But Serena seemed happiest doing ordinary things she'd missed while becoming famous. Grocery shopping after midnight. Driving without a destination. Eating fast food in the car. Watching terrible reality television. Walking through quiet neighborhoods where nobody recognized her beneath a baseball cap. One night, she asked me to take her somewhere I'd gone often in college. So I took her to a 24-hour diner. She stared at the laminated menu. This place has 43 kinds of pancakes. You counted. Yes. Why? I'm concerned. You've performed in front of 70,000 people. But pancakes scare you. 43 options are unnecessary. Welcome to America. She ordered chocolate chip pancakes. I ordered a burger. When the food arrived, Serena stared at my fries. No. She looked at me. I didn't say anything. You were thinking about stealing one. I was looking at my fries. They're in my field of vision. I pushed the plate away. Order your own. I don't want fries. 2 minutes later, one disappeared. I stared at her. She ate it calmly. You're unbelievable. You weren't eating that one. I was absolutely going to eat that one. You still have many. That's not the point. She stole another. I laughed. A waitress passed and did a double take. Serena immediately lowered her cap. The waitress stopped. Sorry, but are you? Serena froze. I expected the usual polite celebrity response. Instead, I leaned forward. My girlfriend looks like her all the time. The waitress looked between us. Oh, Serena turned toward me. I kept a perfectly serious face. The waitress laughed. You really do look like Serena Vale. Serena nodded. I hear that often. The waitress walked away. I waited until she disappeared. Then I burst out laughing. Serena kicked me under the table. Ow, my girlfriend. I stopped. Technically accurate. She looked down at her pancakes. There it was again. That tiny smile. You like that? No, you absolutely did. She cut another piece of pancake. Eat your burger. I smiled, then pushed the fries toward her. She stole 3. A week later, I attended one of Serena's recording sessions. She was working on a new song. I sat quietly behind the sound engineer while she recorded vocals. The song was slower than her usual music. Soft, almost painfully personal. I couldn't make out every lyric through the studio monitors, but I understood enough. It was about remembering someone after years apart, about holding on to a feeling even when life changed, about wondering whether two people could find their way back to each other. When the song ended, nobody spoke for a moment. The producer finally pressed the intercom. That was the one. Serena nodded from inside the booth. Then her eyes found mine through the glass. I knew. The producer knew too. He slowly looked at me. Is that song about you? Every head in the control room turned. I suddenly became very interested in the floor. I have no idea. Serena walked out of the booth. The producer pointed at me. He says he has no idea. Serena took off her headphones. He's slow. Everyone laughed. I looked at her. Excuse me. You didn't know I liked you in high school. I was 16. You didn't recognize me when you arrived. You changed your name and became internationally famous. You still took 9 days. That is not a reasonable complaint. The producer looked delighted. This is better than television. Serena ignored him. I leaned closer. So the song is about me. She looked at me. No. I waited. She held my gaze for 3 seconds. Then 5. Finally, yes. I smiled. Thought so. She walked past me. I caught her hand. She stopped. It's beautiful. The teasing disappeared from her expression. Really? Really? She squeezed my fingers once, then went back into the booth. The producer leaned toward me. I've worked with her for 4 years, and I've never seen her look at anyone like that. My smile faded. I watched Serena through the glass. She was adjusting her headphones. Focused, professional, beautiful. Then she looked toward me again and smiled, only for a second, but it was enough. Yeah, I said quietly. I'm starting to notice. That night, something happened that changed everything. It started with rain. Los Angeles wasn't supposed to rain like that, but the storm came down hard enough to turn the windows gray. Serena's flight from San Francisco had been delayed. She was supposed to land at 11. At midnight, she still wasn't home. At 12:30, I checked my phone again. Nothing. At 1, Claire texted, landed. Driving back now. I should have gone to bed. Instead, I stayed on the couch. At 1:47, headlights appeared outside. I stood before I even realized I was moving. The front door opened. Serena stepped inside. Her hair was slightly damp. She looked exhausted. Then she saw me. You're awake. Obviously. Why? I frowned. Because you weren't home. She stopped. Something in her expression shifted. I told Claire to update you. She did. Then why didn't you sleep? I walked toward her. Serena. What? You were flying through a storm. It was safe. I know. You were worried. Yes. The answer came out faster than I expected. She stared at me. I stared back. Neither of us joked. Then Serena put down her bag. She stepped closer. You waited for me. It wasn't a question. Yes. Her eyes softened. Ethan, I suddenly understood why those little things had mattered so much to her 10 years ago. The strawberry milk. Walking her home. Showing up at rehearsals. Remembering what she liked. Because when you loved someone, small acts weren't small. And somewhere along the way, I'd started doing the same thing. Waiting for her. Remembering her schedule. Knowing when she hadn't eaten. Knowing which expression meant she was tired and which meant she was angry. Knowing when she wanted silence. Knowing when she wanted me near. I lifted a hand and brushed a damp strand of hair away from her face. Serena went completely still. I think I'm in trouble. Her eyebrows pulled together. What? I think you finally did it. Did what? I laughed softly. Made me fall for you. Serena stopped breathing. At least, it looked like she did. For once, she had no clever answer. No cold expression. No confident confession, just wide eyes. Ethan, I know you love me first. She said nothing. And I know I'm about 10 years late. Her eyes were beginning to shine. But I'm here now. I took her hand. So if you still want me. She suddenly wrapped both arms around me. I laughed in surprise. I'm taking that as a yes. Shut up. Her voice was muffled against my chest. I held her. For a long moment. Neither of us moved. Then Serena looked up. Her face was close to mine. This time, I didn't hesitate. I leaned down and kissed her. It was gentle, brief, nothing dramatic. But when I pulled away, Serena stared at me like I'd just changed the laws of physics. I smiled. You okay? She blinked, then kissed me again. That answered the question. The next morning, Claire found us asleep on opposite ends of the couch. Serena's head rested against my shoulder. Our hands were still linked between us. Claire took one look, then turned around. No. I opened one eye. What? I don't want to know. Nothing happened. I especially don't want details. Serena woke. She looked around, then realized Claire was standing there. Instantly, the Ice Queen returned. Why are you here so early? Claire stared at her. It's 9:30. Serena looked at the clock. Oh. Claire's eyes moved to our hands, then to me, then back to Serena. Finally, Serena said nothing. I smiled. Claire pointed at me. You. What? Did you finally figure it out? Figure what out? That you're in love with her. Serena turned toward me. I looked at Claire. You have terrible timing. That means yes. She looked genuinely relieved. Thank God. Serena frowned. Why are you acting like this affects you? Claire laughed. Because I've listened to you talk about him for 6 years. My head snapped toward Serena. 6 years. Serena's eyes widened. Claire froze. I slowly smiled. Oh, this is interesting. Claire, I should leave. Claire. But she was already moving toward the door. I turned toward Serena. You talked about me. No. Claire says 6 years. Claire exaggerates. How often? Serena stood. Breakfast. Don't change the subject. I'm hungry. Serena. She walked toward the kitchen. I followed. What did you say about me? Nothing. Did you show her pictures? Silence. I stopped. You did. She kept walking. How many pictures? No answer. Serena. I heard her laugh from the kitchen. I followed. And I realized something. I had never been happier. Our relationship became public 3 weeks later. Not through a scandal. Not through paparazzi. Serena chose it. She had an album release event in New York. Hundreds of reporters waited outside. Fans filled the sidewalks. I planned to enter through a private entrance. Serena had other ideas. She stopped before leaving the car. Come with me. I looked through the window at the cameras. Out there? Yes. You realize there are approximately 5 million cameras. Probably. You want me on the carpet? Yes. Why? She looked at me. That question again. As if the answer should be obvious. Because you're with me. Simple. I took a breath, then nodded. Okay. We stepped out together. The noise was immediate. Cameras flashed. Reporters shouted. Fans screamed Serena's name. Then they noticed me. The volume doubled. Serena walked beside me. Calm. Untouchable. The Ice Queen. Then, in front of everyone, she reached for my hand. I took it. The cameras went insane. A reporter shouted, Serena, is Ethan the inspiration behind the new album? She kept walking. Another shouted, Serena, are you in love? That made her stop. I looked at her. She turned toward the reporters. Hundreds of cameras pointed at us. Serena didn't hesitate. Yes. The crowd erupted. Then someone shouted, who fell first? Serena looked at me. A small smile appeared. I did. I laughed. Another reporter called. And who fell harder? This time Serena didn't answer. She looked at me. So I did. Me. For once. The famous Serena Vale actually blushed in front of the cameras. The internet had a wonderful time with that. Months passed. The $100,000 contract became a family joke. My parents apologized approximately 17 times. Serena refused to accept the money back. Instead, she told them to consider it in advance on finding her boyfriend. My father called it the best negotiation of his life. I told him never to say that again. Serena and I didn't rush anything. I kept my own apartment. Although I spent more nights at her house than mine, I started working with a small sports media company instead of remaining her assistant. Serena supported it immediately. When I worried that spending less time around her would bother her, she looked genuinely offended. I fell in love with you, Ethan, not my employee. That ended that discussion. We learned each other's adult lives. Not the memories. Not the fantasy Serena had carried for 10 years. The real versions. I learned she became silent when stressed. She learned I needed space when angry. I learned she secretly hated fancy restaurants. She learned I would eat almost anything except olives. She learned I stole blankets. I learned she stole hoodies. Neither problem was solved. And gradually, the strange beginning of our relationship stopped feeling strange. It simply became ours. Almost a year after my parents signed that ridiculous contract, Serena had a rare week off. We returned to Westbridge. Our old high school looked smaller than I remembered. The cafeteria had been renovated. The auditorium had new seats. The vending machines were gone. Serena stood in the courtyard where we used to eat lunch. This is disappointing. What? The tree was bigger in my memory. We were smaller. She considered that. Fair. We found the old bench near the music building. Serena sat. I sat beside her. For a while, we didn't speak. Then she said, "This is where I realized." Realized what? That I loved you. I looked at her. Here. She nodded. You were complaining about a chemistry test. That sounds romantic. You gave me your jacket because I was cold. I don't remember. I know. I laughed. Of course you remember. I remember everything. I looked at her. The girl who had once sat here beside me had been shy, lonely, and afraid of being noticed. Now millions of people knew her name. Yet somehow, sitting on this old bench, she looked more like Rena than Serena. I reached into my pocket. Then maybe you'll remember this. I handed her a small bottle. Strawberry milk. She stared at it. Then at me. No. I smiled. Found it at a convenience store. Her eyes softened. You remembered. Eventually, she took the bottle. I leaned back against the bench. I'm catching up. She laughed. That same laugh. The one I'd finally remembered. After a moment, she rested her head on my shoulder. Ethan. Yeah. If your parents hadn't made that deal, I knew what she was asking. Would we have found each other? I thought about it. Probably. You sound confident. You spent years looking for me. Yes. You're terrifyingly persistent. True. And apparently I was destined to get dragged into your life eventually. She smiled. You were always meant to be mine. I turned toward her. There she is. Who? The terrifying superstar who thinks she owns me. I don't think. I raised an eyebrow. She looked completely serious. I know. I laughed. Then she laughed too. I took her hand. Fine. Fine. You can keep me. Her expression changed. For a second, she looked exactly like the woman who had hugged me from behind the first day I arrived. Except this time, I knew who she was. I knew what those 10 years meant. And I knew what I wanted. I stood. Serena looked up. Where are you going? Come here. She stood. I turned my back. What are you doing? Giving you another chance. At what? I looked over my shoulder. You know. Understanding appeared in her eyes. Then amusement. She stepped closer. Her arms wrapped around me from behind. Exactly like that first day. Only this time, I covered her hands with mine. Serena rested her cheek against my shoulder. And softly, almost teasingly, she repeated the words that had turned my life upside down. Long time no see. My true love. I smiled, then turned in her arms. Yeah, I looked at the girl I'd forgotten. The woman who had never forgotten me. And the person I couldn't imagine leaving now. Sorry I kept you waiting. And this time, when she kissed me, neither of us had anywhere else to be.